Hey, this is your cousin Keith with another episode of Real Talk, Real Money, where we talk about your wealth mindset, your financial freedom with no flexing, no fluff. We are your hosts. Let's get into it.
Keith, we need to talk.
Oh my God. Now what?
Come on, it's just money.
Okay, I'll do it under one condition. It's real talk, real money. Let's dig in real deep.
I'm
All right.
ready.
Where you want to start at?
I think the topic today should really be about the global plan, a real life look at your finances as an individual, a couple, or even a business, because everyone sits under the same umbrella. I'm thinking about where are we? Where are we going? And what is the contingency plan?
So you mean like where am I at as an individual? Where am I at like as terms of married couple, as a couple, or from the business standpoint? Like
Yeah.
which one?
In my viewpoint, they're all the same. We're all having the same process with our finances.
Okay. So I agree with you. Everybody should talk about how much we owe. Right?
Absolutely.
Right. Before you get married, you gotta have this conversation, or even by yourself, you gotta really talk about how much do you owe? Like, what does your debt look like?
What's it look like? Like, what do you owe? What do you own? And what does your monthly responsibility to that look like versus the income that you bring in?
So you're saying, what do I bring to the table? Is that what you mean?
I love when the kids use that term because it used to be that men had to bring everything to the table. Now women have to bring as much as men. And so the combination of finances and relationships really have to come together early in the partnership. So be it a intimate relationship or a business relationship, that partnership has to start with finances. And I know it sounds very shallow to talk about money first, but if you don't both have an awareness of what the other person has going on, you can't come together to move forward.
Okay. Well, my viewpoint is God, family, finances,
Yeah.
right? So that's how we always talk. So we're talking to, like, we come from a large family.
Yes.
So we have 8 children, 15 grandchildren. So
Mhm.
what I look at first, what blueprint we laid on them. So now when we're talking about where somebody is with their finances, like, so a real question is, so how much do you owe?
Yeah.
Right? Or you got to ask yourself that, like, what's my debt look like? What's my credit look like? Like, where can I go? And more to your point, what am I bringing to the table in this relationship? Because everybody's coupling up. Even if you want to or you don't want to, you still, if you got debt, what you gonna do with that debt?
What are you going to do with it?
You know, how you
Because
gonna grow?
are you
How you gonna
bringing
buy
it
a
with
house?
us
Yeah.
or are we going to manage that before we go all the way in? So really even in a relationship that's already affirmed, be it intimate or business, it's never too late to sit down and have a really candid conversation. Without that talk, two people cannot go in one direction because you're
Okay.
both going in opposite directions, possibly. So you don't know if you're on the same page or not. And who wants to invest years and money into a process or a plan where the two of you have two different processes and plans?
Well, that's true because people always say, like, my dad always said, we always put the cart before the horse, meaning we start to date, we do things that we do, right? To incohabitate, as they say. And then we decide, come on, let's get married. Nobody's talked about finances.
Mm-mm.
Nobody's talked about like where we're going. Like when you watch HGTV, they're all like house hunting. One person has this big, elaborate dream about what they want for their house. They talk about the car that they want. So when we were kids, we used to play a game. My dad used to say, he used to ride through all these neighborhoods and say, pick the house you want. So we pick the house we want. Okay. You pick the car you want. Go, that's my house. That's my car. And you pick it. Then we got home. He said, so now, what do you want to do with your life? What do you mean? What do you want to be? I want to be a school teacher. Okay. Well, you just picked $1.5 million house. How you going to pay for that? You just picked a $600,000 car. How you going to pay for that? Because there's nothing wrong with any choice that you make in terms of your career choice, because everything is a noble choice. However, you need to be real clear about when your finances meet your dream. You got to be able to bring those two things together. And oftentimes we don't. So the first thing I start with is, where am I at right now?
Right now.
Real talk with myself right now. Where am I at in that conversation? And how can I get from where I am to where I want to be?
Yeah. So really what we're looking at, no matter what type of relationship you're in, is financial management. Because are you going to work to cut back your debt, or are you going to increase your income or decrease your lifestyle? Either way, you have to come up with money to clear out the debt to be able to move forward.
So all right. So what's your idea of how I'm going to clear up this debt? Like, how you going to clear up your debt?
I mean, strangely enough, the only way to clear up debt is to do a credit build or credit rebuild,
Right.
right? I said, a credit rebuild, which would allow you to first really assess what you have, know what you are and are not responsible for, because just because it's on your credit doesn't mean you are technically responsible for it, especially with the new rules and guidelines that the IRS has put out and the credit bureaus are following. But if you never check your credit, if you never speak to a professional about what the requirements are now, you just don't know. So few people sit home and do their own taxes.
Right.
No one goes to surgery without a doctor. And so why would you consider working with your credit and your debt alone? Why wouldn't you take a professional with you who already knows how to get where you're trying to go and can get you there faster?
I agree with you on that, because one, in terms of like financial obligation, excuse me, one of the first things that we did was figured out who's paying what and how we're paying it and what we both bring to the table, so that we, like you say, like, where are we going? So where are you steering this ship at? So the first thing we did was put that in order. So documentation be conversation all day. You have to have, in my opinion, an honest, open look at where you're at financially, so that will determine, again, where you're going. So what are your financial goals? Like, babe, what kind of house do you want? Even if you don't have a house yet, we're renting in an apartment. How are we going to transition from this apartment to our house? Or if you're already together, we both own properties. Are we're going to sell one property? We're going to rent the property out. Like, what are we going to do to make this motor go, right? So when you said about your health, well, everybody has, in my opinion, having a mentor or a coach is essential in today's society to govern your success. Like, I started going to the gym. I have a coach for that. We're dealing with health issues, like you said, where we're going. What do we do if this shit gets derailed, like me having cancer? Like, what do you do when that happens and that spouse or significant other cannot work? Like, what do you do? Like, how do we manage this family? Like, what direction are you going to take this in? So we put things in place to help us stay on track with that. So I have a good health team. We have a good oncology team. Mm-hmm. Everything is about teamwork. The teamwork make the dream work. Yes, it does. So even with finances, like, we help coach people with their finances. We help them with their credit. So you need to come holler at your cousin Keith about your credit. Get your credit right, get it tight so you can move on. So if you got a business, what you doing with your business? How you going to scale that business? Mm-hmm. So I have a plan in place. When we sat down, I said, babe, here's what I think. And you said, ain't nothing worse than without a plan. So I had to come to the table and go, yo, here go my plan. See you laughing, right? But wasn't that the conversation?
That was the conversation.
Like, where we going at?
Real talk.
Real
money.
talk. It's real money.
We
Like, this is
discussed
only
what is-
money.
what is
And
the plan?
to understand that money is a system. We live within a system. And whether, again, it's individual, however you want to do it, you got to understand how the system works. Like, it was a couple of books that came to my mind while we were sitting here. And one of them was The Psychology of Money. So I started to understand about how money actually works. Or The Creature from Jekyll Island, you know, when they got together and how they started to govern like the banks, right? And there's I can't think of it, there's another book, man, I can't think of it right now. Anyway, about this whole system that, the Lords of Easy Money is what it was. So The Lords of Easy Money, The Creature from Jekyll Island, and The Psychology of Money. I read those 3 books and it kind of opened up my eyes, which led me into financial services, because how am I going to steer the ship? Because owning my own businesses, like where am I steering this ship at? So the first thing I said was get your credit right. Start to build your business. Where am I taking that? You're at a 500. How am I going to get you to a 700? Like in our community, like where I grew up at, the average credit score is like a 542. That's in Camden, New Jersey. Like, whoa, wait a minute. This is blowing me away. But the average credit score in the state of New Jersey is a 722. So no matter where you started, you have to know where you're going. And what we do is financial literacy. Like John Hope Bryan talks about financial literacy for all. So we have to start someplace understanding money, and then we can set down a path to which way we're going and where we're going at.
Yeah.
So that's my spiel on that.
That's the goal, right? The idea is that you have to know where you're going and have someone beside you to take the steps while you get where you're going.
Right, right.
The idea of the contingency plan. You know, some people believe you shouldn't have a contingency plan. You have to put everything in. You got to go all in. You got to go hard. You got to go now. You got to go fast.
Right.
But there has to be an opportunity for you to protect yourself when there are things that happen that stop you from getting where you're trying to go. So think about things that derail your plan, things
Okay.
that cause your plan to require more time than you expected it to. Things like sickness, death, financial hurdles, bankruptcies. How are you going to cover your goals and your plan when things happen that are out of your control
Mm-hmm.
and that you didn't think of, if no one ever gave you the idea to think about it? And that's what the whole financial management and financial literacy is about.
I agree, but I think one of the things that I learned through my journey in life, when I was in my 20s, my dad used to say, wish in one hand, excuse my language, and shit in the other. So you wishing that life would go this particular way because you haven't had enough experience to understand really how this thing is really working,
It's true.
right? So you look at it and go like, yeah, I'm gonna get married. We're gonna have a bunch of kids. We got a big house, blah, 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 blah. Everything's gonna be all right. And then what we do to the kids, we go, so what happens if you get sick?
It's true. What happens?
What
if
you
get
mean?
Hurt.
Yeah. Like,
Yes.
what's the plan? Like, what you gonna do? So my dad always talked about, my dad had a car fund. We used to be like, what's a car fund? You do know you're gonna need an oil change, right? You do know you're gonna need a tune-up. You do realize that this car is gonna have issues. Like I had good credit. I found a car that I wanted. We went down to the lot and I said, my dad said, all right, what you want? I took him to the Cadillac dealer because at the time, Cadillac was the creme de la creme. We go down to the Cadillac dealer, the guy checked the credit. I still needed a cosigner. And he said, okay, so I can put you in this car. I looked at it. I looked at the payment and I said, okay, cool. And my dad said, so what about tires for the car? I said, I ain't thinking about that. What about the tune-up for the car? He said, how much the tune-up for this car cost? And the guy told my dad, and I'm sitting there, and he said, what's the payment again? So he told him what the payment is. He said, now how much you make a week? And I told him, he said, so what about rent? What about food? What about the emergencies? What about, son, things are going to happen. I said, Dad, you haven't even considered. So I said, I don't know. I got pissed. I was like, yo, man, I want the car. He said, I'm not co-signing for that. But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. He takes me down to the Dodge dealer. I never forget, it was a Dodge Colt. It cost $120 to put tires on the car. So I said, I don't want that car. He said, this is what you can afford, and this is what I'm signing for. So once I got the car, but I had a brand new car.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to impress my friends. You know, I wanted to floss, right? And I said, man, I thought you was getting a Cadillac. I come home with a little Dodge Colt. What I didn't realize was I still had a brand new car. It helped me to start to build my credit. So my parents were savers.
Yes.
You know, old school savers. They didn't trust the system. They didn't really teach us about the system and how it works because, again, old school. My parents are baby boomers. They didn't believe in the banks. They believed in cash for everything. So
Cash is king.
exactly. So I took those things into my relationship with you to say, now I have a foundation for what I want to believe. So more to your point, how do I get there? That's how I get there. I know where we're going. I'm not going to overspend. I'm a saver. I'm going to put some money away for a rainy day because what I've learned was, yo, Ma, it's going to rain.
It's going to rain.
It's going to rain. Even
Not
in my
if,
young years.
But when?
Right. So that's my plan for that. But so how do you look at it? What's your contingency plan if something go wrong? Like how you see that?
Yeah, I always consider the things that will allow me to have some coverage. I always call it coverage. I think about things like life insurance. I think about things like
well, you don't nobody want to talk about that, right?
nobody wants to talk about death.
Right.
Nobody wants to talk about death. It is a very uncomfortable subject.
Right.
But
So when do we
have
talk
to-
about that?
You better talk about it in the beginning. You can't talk about it when it happens. You don't have any insurance. You're not covered.
Right.
You know, so you talk about it in the beginning. You have someone with you who understands. Someone who understands that the policy you have at your job isn't going with you when you leave the job.
Oh, most people don't know that, though.
Right?
They don't know that.
It's like, oh, I'm covered the job. I have $150,000 with the job. That's wonderful until 12 years from now, you leave the job.
Right.
Now you're not covered at all. You're older. You have ailments. Now it's going to cost more. Where if you get the policy now or you insure your kids now, it's never an issue.
Right. But most people don't really even understand. So if you got a job, you usually get 2 to 3 times what that insurance covers, right? So one of the things that I teach our clients is that, so now, all right, you got 3 years covered. And let's say this person passes away in their 30s. So how they gonna get the kids through the rest of school? Like, what you gonna do?
What
right?
are you going to do?
You don't think about that. You know, you can get like a small policy, like a term policy for like $1 million in your 20s.
Yes.
For pennies on a dollar,
It's true.
right? Because what it
20s.
is in your 20s, right? Because what it is you want your spouse to be able to continue to raise a family at the same rate and the same standard of living if you're gone as if you were here.
Yes.
Though that's a real conversation that most people never have, even within our family. You know, somebody passed away, like you do know that fish fries are not for funerals, right? You do know that, right? So
not another GoFundMe.
not
Please.
not another GoFundMe. I can't handle another one. So that's a conversation that people should, really have. So plan A, how much do I owe? Well, I gotta look at that and I always laid that out. When we sat down, one of the first things you said was, how much money do you owe? Right? And how you pay your taxes. And I had a business when we first met each other. And I'm like, so what's your taxes look like? You better be filing your taxes, right? I need to see your taxes. I'm like, what? I feel like I'm on a damn interview.
These things are important.
Right. But at the
And no
time,
one wants to talk about it. It's
nah,
uncomfortable.
because I'm a single guy, right? Like I ain't supposed to be talking about that to you, right? You remember when Pop said, if you wanted privacy, I said, she all in my business, man. He said, boy, if you wanted privacy, you shouldn't have got married. Said what? So open that bank account up, right? So here's a good one I got for you. So open up the bank account. So do you believe that people should or should not, because you said how much do you owe and who's responsible? So should people like have one account, have a joint account? Should they have a family account? Like, what was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I hate to say it like this, but the more accounts, the better. There should be one account as a joint account where the financial responsibilities of the partnership go. That's where you pay your bills, you keep your household petty cash in this account. Each individual should have their own checking account and their own savings account as well.
All right. So why do you think that most couples never talk about that?
Because in the beginning of a relationship partnership, they don't feel like this person has the right to their finances yet. It's still new. It isn't part of the checklist for requirements, right? So as a woman, when I look at a man, I have different ideas. I need for him to be kind, considerate.
Mm-hmm.
He cannot be abusive, not verbally, psychologically, physically. And he has to be willing to talk to me about his finances. Other people, the finance box is different than what my finance box looks like. Most women just want to know, how much do you make a year?
Right.
And it's really not in depth enough. Because even if you make $500,000 a year or $2 million a year, if you have that much in debt, if you have a girlfriend in Connecticut in a $500,000 house, and have a girlfriend in Florida in a $700,000 house, and now I'm going to be the third household, and I don't know I'm the third household, that $500,000 or $2 million a year that you make is blown in the wind.
Right.
We can't build on that because it's going into multiple piles. So the discussion has to be deeper. I think the need for a real talk about finances should come as early as possible in the partnership relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't had it yet, I don't care where you are in the process, have it right now. I don't care how much it hurts. I don't care how much you're ashamed of your credit score. I don't care how many times your mother told you, don't ever tell that woman how much money you make. They're just going to want you for your money. Talk to your partner.
I agree. I think that what I've learned over the years is that you have to vet that person.
That's exactly what it is.
And here's the real thing. You slept with them first.
Mm-hmm.
You decided that you like that. That's the cart before the horse.
For the horse.
And then you decided, oh my God, your credit is terrible.
And so is your income.
Right.
And you're from job to job.
Right. So you have no stability.
Yes.
Right. So I think one of the things that I learned from talking to a lot of people is I'm afraid to let you know who I really am. Because for the first 6 months of this joint, I've been giving you my representative. Nah, girl, I'm doing good. Everything's straight. Well, let's put it on the table. Because I swear to you, I was offended when you said about having those things in order. However, I was still taught to be open and transparent about what it is that we were doing. So with that, to reveal those things, again, why don't we talk about that? Because I'm afraid that you may know the truth, and the truth you may reject. So again, depending upon where you were born, and when I say where you're born, the time frame that you were born in. Again, I noticed that baby boomers, that generation, I provided, you were quiet, nobody asked you no question. I mean, you asked a question and be like, why you in my business? You ain't want to buy in your business. Well, my parents were a little more progressive and said, somebody gonna be all in your business. Because if the rent is $1,000 and you're looking for this particular place and you don't make the money to meet that income, because I let you go out and shop and you did all these things that you want because you thought that I made a lot of money. And I haven't revealed that to you. So again, I go back to that point is the first reason was I'm scared. I don't trust you. So if I'm afraid to talk to you, how am I supposed to talk to you? Like how you like what did you do to say, or how do you feel like you get somebody to open up in that conversation?
I hate to say that I'm brash, but literally, you have to sit the person down and say, we're going to talk about it. And if you're going to run from the discussion, if you're going to hide from the discussion, maybe this is not a relationship I should be in, because I have the right to protect myself as an individual as well. I don't have to continue down the road in a partnership where I don't really have a partner,
Okay.
right? So somewhere along the lines, you got to pull your britches up and be a big girl. And are you going to sit on the sidelines and let this other person run amok? Or are you going to say, we're talking about it. Here's what I have in reference to finances, be it what I owe, what I own, what I currently bring in as an income. These are my possible inheritances. And this is what I want to do with what I have. This is my current plan. And so here it is laid out for you so that you can see me as an individual in a financial perspective. If you, as my contingent partner, and this is contingent, if you are not
Contingent on what?
contingent on you being willing to share your life with me. Because why am I partnering with a person who isn't going to share their life with me? What is the purpose of that? It's actually the exact opposite of what we're doing. What are you doing? Like you're going to share your life with a person that's not sharing their life with you?
That made me think about what Dad said. You standing up there lying in front of God, for better or for worse, for richer or poor, in sickness and health.
Yes.
And then you get there and go, I don't want you in my finances.
I don't want you in my finances.
I don't want you to know my business. I don't even want you to know how I feel. Like, you know what? Like, you never think to ask somebody, like, so what's your family's, like, his health history? Because you don't know to ask that, right?
Because you're young.
Right. You don't know to say, like, wait a minute now, everybody in that family broke.
Everybody.
Hey, where this going at? This like a train wreck,
But it's no way to know in the beginning.
waiting to happen, right?
I remember when our daughter was in high school, she was dating a young man. He was a nice kid. And somewhere around senior year, they started talking about marriage.
Right.
And I thought, he's a nice kid. He has sickle cell.
Right.
Have you considered what life is going to look like?
I remember that.
If and when your children are born, they're at very high risk of having sickle cell.
Right.
So I don't mean to discriminate against this person because they have a health issue, but I want you to really think about what it looks like and how it plays out for the rest of your life. Think about being the breadwinner and you can't go to work because the children are sick now. And we know you're the breadwinner because he is sick so often that he is not going to be able to manage financially the plan that you've already shared with me for yourself and your finances. When you're younger, I can't say that because even sometimes some people, when they're older, they can't think it all the way through, or they don't know what topics they should be thinking about. I have a sister who just never really considered how to approach the topic of finances with her new fiance. It never dawned on her that the two of them really needed to talk about it. I'm in my 50s. She's in her 40s.
Right.
Even in her 40s, she did not have the awareness to go any deeper than how much do you make? Because when you ask a person what do they bring to the table, they bring more than just a paycheck.
So how do you avoid like the fight? Like you were real good at advising on like, because you come out like, I don't want to talk about that right now. Like, how do you like steer that conversation to say, because most of the time when we find out that we're in deep water, we're already in deep water.
We're already in deep
right?
water.
So how do you navigate that conversation to not have a fight? Because I can speak for myself. It's touchy in the beginning. It make you feel like as a man, I felt vulnerable. Like, what you mean? So how did you steer that to say, you know what? This is how we're going to frame it. Because I want you to remember how you did it.
I think first I want to say that all relationships do not have the level or type of, not level, type of communication that we have, right? Some relationships fight. Like that's how they communicate. And so if you are in a relationship that warrants a fight for this understanding and this mutually benefiting conversation, then have the fight. Don't shy away from the fight. Don't shy away from the conversation. Don't shy away from not being spoken to for 2 days. Go in, go hard, and go now.
Wow. Go in, go hard, and go now.
Go now.
Right?
Otherwise, you don't know what's on the other side. You're pulling yourself through a tunnel.
Okay.
You don't want to get halfway through the tunnel and realize it's flooded on the other side. You have to turn around and run back the other direction.
I'm going to say something. You always say something like, as you started this off, what we need to talk, right? But you say, are you open?
I
Because
do.
I think it's critical that the other person is open to that conversation. Because we'll talk about sex. Ain't
Yes,
no problem.
No problem.
Right? But when you start
Food.
talking about the finances,
People
and
are not.
usually that's where things start to sway. Again, whether you're an individual, if you're in a relationship, if you're married, if you have a business with your partner, there has to be a level of open communication for this to grow. My dad always said, run your life like a business. You'll never have a problem. I didn't understand that when I was younger. As I've grown, yes, we run our life just like that. Like we have an agenda almost every day that we do. And our life is always full. Again, 8 children, 15 grandchildren, and running 3 businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you manage that? And I think one of the things I learned from you is we put it all in order, and it was a strategy, but it took time to build that.
It takes time. However, if you don't have that conversation now, it's difficult to build. This is a very touchy conversation. And so when you have the conversation, I want you to go into an understanding that you're right. The relationship is going to sway. The bridge is like the roped bridge. It's going to rock. But I would rather it rock now than rock 10 years from now. Because if the two of you decide that this is not something that you want to go into because you're rocking, do it at the beginning. Don't wait until you have a couple of kids or a couple of businesses together to decide that now is the time to pull out.
I agree. And I think also when you start, everybody, like the catchword now is legacy, 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 legacy. So you hear people talking, you got to set up a legacy. You got to do like the Rockefellers. You got to do all these things. But again, if you don't start right, you can't end right. So how do you pass on the legacy? Like we always talk about
Beginning with the end in mind.
right. And kids don't do what you say. They do what they see. So the fruit of the labor is when they're coming back saying, I understand what you're saying. I saw what you did. You set the example. You laid it down. We start teaching the kids about finances early. We even teach the grandkids about finances. Like the 14-year-old already has his own account. The next phase for him over the summer is, you know what? Let's teach you about stocks. So you have stocks for children so that they start to understand the things that they can. So if you're talking about a legacy, you can't be afraid to have a conversation. You got to sit down like a business meeting and say, you know what? We're going to talk. If it's 5 minutes, start. You got to start somewhere.
Yes.
If it's 10 minutes, then you start to build on it too. You can just wing it. We in the car like, hey, babe. So I was looking at such and such and such and such. I got this business idea to like, I started to understand what you were saying, but it took years to be able to go, you know what? I can almost finish her thought because I understand, but that's only because of the level of communication, that we have. Would you agree with that?
I do agree. I think in the beginning, you lay a foundation for how you're going to communicate. And no matter how that style of communication looks for your relationship,
Right.
have the talks, be patient, and let the ideas grow. You have to let it flow. Relationships are like plants.
Mm-hmm.
They take time to grow. You just don't add Keith and stir.
Right.
That isn't how this works.
Exactly.
It doesn't work that way. You have to be patient with it. You have to groom it. You have to spend time with it. And finances are the same way. You don't start out, Rockefeller didn't start out Rockefeller.
Wow. Amen to that.
It was his last name. It wasn't the brand that he created.
Right. He built on that.
He built it.
Right.
He nurtured it. He lived through it. And it wasn't always easy. So there's ups and downs in everything. But you have to continue to move forward. You have to stick to your plan, and you have to ensure in case you need a contingency plan. You have to.
I think we can end on that note, that we got to sit down, have a conversation, no matter how bad it hurts, and to be honest with one another and come up with a plan and build on that. I like that.
I like it.
Good job, babe.
Thanks.
This episode is sponsored by KJ Financial Group. At KJ Financial Group, we help families and business owners understand financial strategies that can create more protection, more options, and a stronger future. Because it's just not about the money. It's about having a strategy for what's next. KJ Financial Group helps families with purpose. For more information, call 877-386-5514.
Today's episode is sponsored by Capital Keys Financial, your resource office for personal and business financial consulting. Capital Keys can be reached at 855-916-9533 and is located in the Delaware Valley and tri-state areas.